As the Cadian army scrambles to prepare for the inevitable assault, a single rider emerges from the Svardic army, flying a white flag of parley. The rider is clearly Middish, a knight from Dinham. They let him get close. He says that Bjornsson has asked to meet with the leaders of Kilchester. He will come to see them in 1 hour. Wigglesworth agrees to the meeting. As far as anyone here knows, nobody has parleyed with Bjornsson. Or, nobody has done so and then survived after, at any rate. The army prepares for a surprise attack. Wigglesworth and his command staff, including Alexander and Yoren, position themselves to the front of the breach. They aren't shy about showing force. Everyone recognizes that if Bjornsson chooses to turn this parley into an attack, the Berserk commander alone would likely prove difficult to defeat. Steelshod mostly assembles behind the commanders, as do the pikemen of the Bold Brotherhood, and the Sons of Victory. Ignis, Jaspar, Nate, and their assistants scramble to complete the ballista as fast as they can. It's largely built, but their test shots over the previous few days were underwhelming at best. Varley has joined them on the tower. He has an expensive Castelline looking glass, and the tower gives him a good view of the Svardic encampment, and the most likely battle zones. When the hour has passed, Bjornsson approaches. He is flanked on either side with a column of men. Not so many that it looks like an assault force, but enough to be intimidating. Gunnar is standing near Alexander and Yoren, a place of high honor, but mostly just so that he can watch the Svards and translate if they try to confer in their own tongue. As Bjornsson and his men get closer, Gunnar identifies some of the figures closest to the Svardic warlord. There is Einsolf the Black, a lean, dark-haired man with a sword and shield. Once a champion of a Svardic clan, he is said to be both swift and deadly in single combat. Stein, the Butcher, famed for his penchant for hacking his enemies to bits, disrespecting their corpses. A large man, almost as broad as he is tall, with small throwing axes strapped all over his body, and a few larger ones for use in melee. Gerd, the Chain-Bearer, a berserk so named because he carries a huge long chain with a weighted tip. In battle, he whirls the chain around him and strikes with enough force to shatter bone and armor. Halvar the Peacekeeper, a tall, broad man, skilled in battle with spear and shield, most known for his efforts at uniting the Svardic clans, in much the same way Bjornsson has, but with far less success. Gunnar is not surprised to see Olaf One-Eye at Bjornsson's right hand. One of the most well-known Svardic clan chiefs, Olaf is an old man for a reaver, but he has a reputation for cleverness and ingenuity that makes him very dangerous. The left side of his brow is a ruin, skull partially caved in around an empty eye socket. He carries a steel war axe and shield. Ever since stories of Bjornsson began to spread, Olaf One-Eye has stood at his side. The last familiar face is that of Olaf's son, Yorg Spearbreaker, a renowned skirmisher and warrior. Yorg gained his name in an epic battle during a raid on the Midlands years ago. He hurled the spear at a Cadian knight with such force that the spear exploded into fragments as it pierced the knight's armor. Gunnar claims rumor has it that these days Yorg carries a number of poorly made spears to ensure they continue to break in spectacular fashion, as it does wonders for the morale of his fighters. There are few other berserks and warriors in Bjornsson's tale that Gunnar doesn't recognize, though there are also easily a dozen or more notable champions that seem to be absent from the field. Notably, a number of Bjornsson's champions among the Berserk's clans themselves are nowhere to be seen. Bjornsson arrives, leaving his retinue behind and advancing into the breach alone. He comes to stand before Wigglesworth, towering over the Cadian lord, like a man might stand over a child. He is truly huge. The bearskin is equally huge, a white skin draped from his back. His chest is covered in a steel breastplate, and gleaming steel mail covers his limbs. Hanging from his belt are 2 weapons, a steel sword and an axe with a steel head, each large enough that a man like Bear or Alexander might wield the weapon in both hands. But from the look of him, Thorbjornsson likely fights with one in each. Across his back is draped an enormous club, for lack of a better word. A length of dull gray iron, easily 8 feet long, nearly as wide as a man's torso, with spiked studs running most of the length. It looks like a weapon made for a bearsark, utterly impossible to wield in normal hands. Thorbjornsson looks over the crowd. His expression is odd, inscrutable. He looks almost bored. "They call me Thorbjornsson," he says. His voice is deep, of course, with an edge on it, not unlike a bestial growl. But his Middish is flawless, with virtually no accent. "If you wish to live, you will surrender to me now. You will leave these walls, leave behind your weapons and supplies. Your commanders will be taken, your forces disbanded. Any I have use for, I will take. The rest of you will be free to run and hide, and pray to your false god that we do not find you another day." He stops talking, pauses for a moment, then turns to go. Wigglesworth tells him to stop, to wait. "That's all? Just an ultimatum? No negotiation? No discussion?" the Lord asks. "There is nothing to discuss," comes the reply. "Your people will surrender, or they will die." This pisses off Wigglesworth, and Steelshod, and pretty much all present. Wigglesworth challenges him further, tells him that he may be surprised at how difficult they are to kill, tells him he will pay for the atrocities his people have been committing against the priests of Torath and the people of Cadia. Thorbjornsson seems utterly dispassionate, not just uninterested, but numb. He just doesn't seem to care. Alexander can't stop thinking of Elena. He speaks up, calls the Svardic warlord out. He asks why they're doing this. Thorbjornsson's answer is short and simple. "Because I made a promise," he says. He sounds even more emotionless than he did before. The answer makes no sense to Alexander, but it's something. An opening, maybe. He tries to ask more questions. Thorbjornsson is quiet. He studies Alexander for a moment, and the cloaks of Alexander and the rest of Steelshod wear. He ignores Alexander's word. "Are you the one that Hakon's pet speaks of?" he asks. Alexander's blood runs cold. Thorbjornsson goes on to talk about a particular Torathi priestess they have captive that has caught Hakon's attention. Thorbjornsson has seen her resist all manner of torture and subjugation. He says it took a very long time to break her. She spoke of a Ruskan man, fitting Alexander's description. Alexander asks where she is, his voice cold and quiet. Thorbjornsson shrugs the question off. "Not here. With the rest of Hakon's pets." Alexander tells Thorbjornsson that he will kill him. Thorbjornsson sighs. "You will try," he says. "You will not be the first. Or the last." He sounds almost disappointed, and then he turns to go. Wigglesworth tries to get his attention again, but the Svardic warlord is done. He and his entire retinue return to their camp. Within a few moments, the army has begun mobilizing. The conscripts from Dinham are pushed forward towards the front of the column. forming up in position to charge the breach. A large force of Svards and Krigars begin mobilizing around the keep, skirting towards the south for another prong of the assault, many of them carrying ladders. The Wunkar clans and the Dynamite cavalry position themselves north, poised near the postern gate. The Unkar have a crude tree formed into a simple ram. Ter Bjornsson and his retinue stay to the northeast, near the encampment. Watching. Waiting. The defenders mobilize as well. Everyone takes their place and prepares for the coming onslaught. It's going to be a hell of a battle. Thank you for tuning in to Steelshod, a series by Mostly Rights, narrated by Tailforge. You can find every chapter in text format, as well as character sheets, setting information, maps, and rule documents on the Steelshod tabletop system in the link below. If you'd like to support the channel, you can pop down to the description and use the Patreon link for recurring donations, the paypal.me link for one-time donations, the Teespring link for shirts with the incredibly cool background art by Nobody, or use the DriveThruRPG affiliate link the next time you're looking to try a new system. If you'd like to support the author, you can find Steelshod merch on the MostlyRights.com store, or donate to the Mostly Rights Patreon, which are both linked on reddit.com/r/mostlyrights down below.